morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. How you doing? Give me a little thumbs up if I got some good audio now. Let me see. So, how are you guys doing? Hey, I got a thumbs up finally. I worked hard. We moved things around. We're trying to get this right, but people have to hear us in here. There's a little bit of an echo, but here we go. So, good morning, everybody. Day 527. You guys ready for this one? Look, I'm ready with my white. We're doing white or black or some stuff, but I got my white going. Are you guys going to be there today? We don't have a pic. We don't have a song. Now we can start. Hi, everybody. Did you guys catch Ezra's reporting last night? He did it from outside the courtroom because he was inside and he went outside and did a report. I would say 50% of it was good. 50% was good because he's talking about the man and the injustice. So it's good that Rebel has a narrative that this is a bad thing. He also filled up the other half with excuses, why he wasn't reporting, why he wasn't funding, and what he's going forward with on this. He committed to 2 days of reporting, so let's see if there's a third day and more. We'll find out. He did confirm that he will be there today, so hopefully I'll get a chance to speak to him a little bit more than just, hi, Ezra. Will you be here tomorrow? I don't know yet. Would you like my reporting? Nope. Hopefully it's more than that. We can maybe have a conversation about what's going on, and we might have to rebel the rebel. So we'll keep them honest, won't we? So today's an excellent episode because we're going to have Danielle, and Granny here. Daniel's running a little bit late, but she'll be here, I'm sure. And we have Gord coming back. We have Zach coming back. We may have Mocha and possibly Viva. Slim chance of Viva because he has to go get passports and stuff. So we'll see. But thank you all very much for joining today because today is a big day. We're going to find out what the results of that CC1 is, or at least the next few steps. It's going to be exciting. I spoke to Chris Lysick last night. He called me, and it was wonderful to hear from him again after I've seen him. So before this, I saw just pictures like you guys, but yesterday I got to see him in person, and now I get to speak to him after that. It's nice. It's nice. But he shared some information. He doesn't know what's in that secret package, the seal package from the defense. He doesn't physically know what's in it. They didn't tell him, and he doesn't want to know. But his lawyer has communicated with him that he's incredibly excited that if they can get past the piercing of the client solicitor privilege, that it's a golden ticket. This is the term that he used. It's your golden ticket. We have to argue past privilege. I have a good feeling about this because in order to pierce privilege, it's a very high standard, and you need to show who the decider who's deciding whether or not you pierce the privilege, and likely the judge on this one. If it's in the interest of justice, then you have to do it. Because on its surface, privilege is a very sacred privilege for client solicitors because it's allowing the communication. But there's like one really small exception to that, and that's in the interest of justice. So if in the interest of justice, it makes more sense and it's proper to pierce that veil, then they will. Now, why I'm kind of highlighting this is if you were me and you sit in that courtroom yesterday, the judge said that about 4 times when giving his decision on Chris Carbert's voluntary decision there. He kept saying, in the interest of justice. Was he dropping hints for a decision later? Was he setting the mood that he was a fair guy because he's doing interest of justice today? Maybe he's going to do it the next day too. He was using that term a lot. It tickled my ear a few times because he was emphasizing that his decision was to ensure that there's trust from the community, from the public in the justice system. Is he going to carry forward that? Because if he does, that's what pierces the veil. No, client privilege here. Now, I also want to highlight something. Typically, when you think of client solicitor privilege, you're thinking of exactly that, a client and a lawyer. Client, lawyer, client, solicitor. The way the Crown's using it is they're all lawyers inside that office, so they're all calling privilege when they talk inside that office. So the guy right beside him, hey, you want to do a bad thing? Sure, let's do a bad thing. They're calling privilege on that. I don't know if that's going to work. But that's the situation. So the lawyer is inside the Crown's office, and of course the Crown himself is inside the Crown's office, and they got to pierce that privilege. But if they do, Chris Lysick says it's a golden ticket. I'm excited for him. He's excited. Very good conversation with him yesterday. And I can't wait for him to get out. I want to have a beer with him. I don't drink, but for him, I certainly will. And good morning to the rest of my team. I saw Gord like that one. Yeah, for these guys, I'll crack a beer, just not a Bud Light. That's for darn sure. So good morning to Granny.
Good morning.
Oh, good. You sound good. Let me see if that's too loud. Edit mic. There you go, Granny. Can you say hello again?
Hello.
Cool. And good morning, Don.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great. I've got all sorts of good feelings about what you just spoke about.
Yes,
The privilege issue.
golden ticket.
Yeah.
That's the term you used.
Yeah. So if two cops are at their desk at the police station and they say, let's do a bad thing, do they have privilege? No, of course not.
No.
Should lawyers have privilege if they say, let's do a bad thing?
No. I'm optimistic. I think it would be a big miscarriage of justice if they didn't allow this and there was something there that completely exonerated them. That would be a massive miscarriage of justice. So I think there's a few hurdles here for the Crown, ironically enough. Are you done?
I think so.
Okay.
But the other part of that we forget about a little bit is that the RCMP have to lawyer up too. What's that about? Ooh.
To see that package, they have to have the counsel. Yeah. Yes. So let's hope it's what we have always assumed all along, that they created these conditions. Maybe enticed or entrapped along those lines. Those are terms that could be in play here.
Yeah, well, there's another couple of terms too, and we'll see what happens. And we're going to talk about one of them today, which is scripting.
Scripting, that's absolutely right.
Which is the creation of a false narrative about what someone said.
And that word's come around, hasn't it? Let me bring in Zach now. Good morning, Zach.
Morning, everyone.
Let me bring back Gord. So listen, Gord, you changed these men's lives, man. It's your article that kicked everything off. So thank you.
I'm glad to have been of service, and I'm very happy to hear that the strategy I had in mind worked. Well, I mean, you just said something about Ezra finally showing up, and
yep.
No disrespect, but the Canadian media, either left or right, they are many things, and I knew that using my connection with Newsweek to say something about this would get more people up north motivated, like shaming them from south of the border, and it worked.
It worked in spades, my friend. This is an 18-wheeler that just went right through that media barrier. And Ezra threw some shade too, because there was two of us in there plus him, and he knows that because he knows the other reporter. It was Mocha, but he reports there was only one independent journalist in there. Come on, dude. Even there, you're throwing shade. Good morning, Zach. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing quite well. I think that I was busy yesterday. I went and saw Oppenheimer in the evening, so I was kind of out of the whole Twitter world for a little bit and missing some things. And Ezra also has me blocked, so I've been missing his updates for whatever. I know he was going after Jeremy Mackenzie a bit yesterday, but again, it was kind of hard to keep following things as he does have me blocked. I don't know why, but I am. So yeah, I was kind of out of it a little bit, so still just catching up on some of the yesterday's events. But I'm excited sorry, what?
No, go ahead. You're excited.
Oh, I was just gonna say I was excited with these guys have a day in court and lots of the stuff has come out, and I think lots of people have been putting in effort. Everybody on Jason's show here and other people that are finally taking notice to this because of the efforts of people like us. So I think it's really good, and these guys should have, I think, a fair trial hopefully, and the next couple of days should be exciting to be able to actually get to the bottom of lots of this stuff.
Excellent. And what's the issue with Jeremy? What does Ezra have problem?
Ezra called him a Fed.
With Canadians?
Yeah, he called him a Fed, and then there was a bunch of drama after that stuff. And then, like I said, I was blocked, so I wasn't able to really go into it a lot and see Ezra's posts. But I wasn't too happy with Rebel. I haven't been too happy with them since the last month, and all of the, I guess, would be right-leaning independents. I'm not too happy with right now because no one's really doing their job.
And when he calls him a Fed, maybe he's the Fed. Like, who calls people Feds, especially Jeremy? Why would he accuse Jeremy of being a Fed?
I think it was his most recent court filing or finding, because he went to court on the 19th. I remember.
Yeah, June 19th. Yeah.
Yeah, and got the charges dropped from Nova Scotia. Now I think he still has, I think, 4 other trials that he is going to be in. But I mean, yeah, you kind of made a good point. Is who calls people Feds is the people that have the federal protections. So, and Ezra has a long history with Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives too. So you can always that what Jeremy said as that one joke, and Daglon kind of coming after Pierre a little bit, it kind of just seems that they may have wanted a little bit of a hit piece, and they're using Ezra as the mouthpiece for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And his facts were not correct. Like, he had so many words wrong and things wrong in his reporting there. He's clearly not speaking to the family or us or even using Gord's information anymore. He seems to just have his own information. I wonder where he gets that, because we don't have access to the same people he does.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's also when I forget the kind of quote, but it's like watch out for those who are silent when you're struggling, and I think that Ezra is going to kind of prove his worth or lack of worth over the coverage of this and just some events around not just the Coutts Four, but like lots of other things that have kind of come out recently.
Well, I'm going to try and ask him questions. I only have really 2 questions. What were you considering this ban all along? Because it hasn't changed, but now you're here. And where's all that money? Do you still have some? Is it all gone? Did you hand it all out? Because if you're still sitting on some, maybe it should be making its way over here. If it's all gone, maybe we should get an accounting. And if you owe people some money, maybe we should know about that. So I'm hopefully he'll give me an interview today. This is how he gets to people. He meets them in the hallway and he does the interview, right? So I'll be there. Good morning, Granny. How are you doing?
Is muted.
There you go. You're good.
Okay. I'm doing fine. As we know, I only think about the men. Ezra is another subject in my accountability list. He knows what he did. I don't have to tell him. The stress that he could have taken off these men by helping them. He promised everybody that he would help them. I don't believe anybody signed waivers. If I get charged federally, you don't need to help me. These 4 men were charged federally, and that's the excuse everybody's giving for running away from them, and Ezra included. So accountability, you have to look in the mirror. So I'm all about the men, and right now the men are struggling. They're doing well, do not get me wrong, but 527 days in a remand jail, they're still struggling. They're putting on good faces, kind of like fake it till you make it. Every day is hard. Yeah, like I said, it's a hard go for them right now. I pray today has a good outcome, and I say to everybody, please continue to pray for the men and keep them strong. Keep writing them. Keep answering 1-866 numbers. Do what you can. Keep sharing and sharing and sharing some more. And Gord, your aunt is wonderful for reaching out to you. Kate will always be, and the men will meet her one day, because I believe you and her actually really changed the direction. And don't get me wrong, Jason, everybody's done a great job. But Auntie Kate, we love you.
Oh, that's amazing, Granny. And yeah, Gord, have you gotten more attention? Have people reached out to you on this matter?
Not really. Not really. I'm finding the same thing happened when I was doing my reporting and writing on Freedom Convoy. Because I no longer live in Canada, I might as well not exist to a lot of people. And the only folks interested in hearing from me are Americans and a few people in England. And I'm not on the radar. Even writing for Newsweek, the American Conservative, Unheard, Compact, all these different places I write, because they're not in Canada, I don't exist. So, and that's fine. I mean, whatever. Like I say, my approach to this thing is there is an injustice happening at home. Freedom Convoy was an injustice. COVID was an injustice. What's happening to these men is an injustice. And because I sort of understand a little bit like the sort of insular bipolarity of how the Canadian media works, I figured if I write something in Newsweek that'll make waves at home because it's outside of the country. But like, my name is not going to matter. The name Newsweek matters because it provides the situation, the imprimatur of a very large, well-established publication. And that's the whole point. Like, none of this is about me or any of you folks. I mean, we're all helping, but the point is to, as you know, to use a well-worn phrase, raise awareness. And as I put it, to try and shame some people up north. I have a friend who's a corporate lawyer in Toronto, and he passed it around a bunch of his lawyer friends who all received the article very well. A couple of them maybe disagreed with some of the premises of like tracing this directly to Trudeau. Maybe they're not as politically minded as we are, but they understand the gravity of the situation. And to a person, every person I've sent it to back home that's read it has said, like, why isn't anybody else talking about this? And it's, well, there you go. That's the Canadian media for you.
No, 100%. And Rebel used it. Viva used it. A whole bunch of other people did use it. I don't think Rebel would have started reporting at all if there wasn't a Newsweek article. And let me tell you a nice little story there, Gord. Inside the remand center, they don't have access to the internet like we do, but they have access to an iPad that has mainstream media or main state media on it. So they get to see the crap stories about them when they pop up. Like, there's every once in a while, there's a story that will come out and cause problems or try to set the narrative. So they see those. Newsweek is on that list of approved. So when your article came out for the first time, they saw their truth in the media on that iPad. And that was 500 and something days since they actually saw some truth about them. So maybe only those 4 men saw it. That's all that matters as far as I'm concerned, because that completely changed their outlook. They thought, oh, wow, it's starting to come out now. So Gord, even just that opinion piece in that place where they can see it changed their entire outlook, I would say. So thank you.
I'm very glad to hear that. I'm glad I was able to use my position to bring some light to the guys, cheer them up, and show them that, you know, people are thinking about them, and, you know, getting the message to as many people as possible. That's great. And thanks to all you guys for helping me with it. Like, if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't have written anything. I wanted to make sure everything was battened down, and you guys helped greatly with that. So kudos to you.
And do you plan on doing an update or another version, like after the court case today or something?
Believe it or not, I was just in contact with my editors there, and they asked me, I don't know about an update on the court case necessarily, but they wanted to know if I could speak with any of the gentlemen and write I guess, follow up to the one I already wrote. And, you know, maybe we can workshop that after today's proceedings. We can talk about that later in the week, how to maybe make that happen. But Newsweek is interested in hearing directly from the four.
Sure. You pass me your legal name and your phone number, and that could happen.
All right.
That's all it takes. Viva did the same thing. So Viva's spoken to all 4 of them now.
Oh, good. Yeah, I watched a part of the whole stream where it was all you guys and Viva together the other day. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was yesterday. And he has spoken to all 4 men, and he wrote a story. It's on his locals and on his Twitter as well. It was interesting because as he's writing the story, the men are calling. So he's like, I just spoke to Chris. See. Oh, Chris L just called. Oh, look at this, Tony. It was a neat story to read.
No, good. Excellent. Thank you, Viva.
Yeah, Viva's awesome. We'll see if we can get you guys on the same screen at some point. Hey, Donald. So we're going to teach. So, Gord, do you know what scripting is when it comes to the legal profession or the police?
I'm slightly aware of it, and I think I read in a comment somebody made on one of your videos, or maybe Viva's. There was a commenter who said that this is a practice that the cops use all the time, and that issue was at play here.
Yeah, so we're about to learn what that means because there's an entire article that Donald's working on. So, Donald, you kind of know this term. This is a term you are very familiar with. And Granny didn't realize that it meant something, but she's heard it a lot. So let's go ahead and start talking about that, scripting.
Well, first of all, Granny may have heard it in a different context. I think she heard about a scripted arrest. Now, that can mean a planned arrest, something, a script that you follow, a script. We're making a movie and you just follow the script. By the way, how's my sound level?
Your sound level's good to me. Yeah.
Okay.
And
So-
that was yesterday's use of it, but she's heard it throughout the whole entire court matter.
Right. But there are different contexts, of course,
For sure.
like every word in the English language. When coppers talk about scripting, there's a whole subculture, a whole slang in police, just like there is in journalism, just like there is in any other profession. And certain words mean certain things. To script someone is to falsely claim that they said something that they did not say, that they made an inculpatory statement. You got me, copper. I broke the window. It was me, when he never said that, or something like that. It's dishonest. It is illegal. It's a criminal offense. And unfortunately, in my career, I've seen it, and how it's common. Why? There's a number of reasons. First of all, sometimes police officers think that they've got the right guy, and whether or not that they don't want him to get away, he's a whatever he is, whatever she did. And they think that by padding the evidence, by fabricating evidence, by making evidence, that will ensure a conviction. And indeed, it may ensure a conviction, but it may be the wrong person. And you say, well, how can someone get caught up in that? Well, different reasons. It can become a culture if the supervisors, if the hierarchy, if the people you work with allow it to be. I saw it from the very first day I went out on the road, and you have to choose. You have to choose. Second arrest I was involved in, somebody said, it would be better if those drugs, which were in the glove box, were on the seat beside the driver. And I said, don't you try that. And I was talking to, I had months on, I'm nobody. But the people I was working with, they had years on. And frankly, it frightened me. I mean, I was naive. I had no idea that someone would just say, let's move that evidence to make a better conviction. But that's what they wanted to do. So you have to make a choice. And we've seen some other things as we go along. The Star, and the Star, for all their faults, they're the mainstream media, and they did a series a few years ago called "Police Who Lie," and wow, it just kept on coming. Now I'm going to try and share my screen here, so you'll forgive me if I get it wrong. Okay, here we go. By the way, do you hear a 3-year-old in the background or no?
Oh, sorry. No, I don't. I was on mute.
Oh,
that time. Yeah,
that's
no, I don't.
good. It's great having a good mic, isn't it, Jason?
Yes, but there's an echo in here, so I'm working with it.
All right. So, okay, screen sharing. I'm going to share the screen. Let's see what I get. Select the window or screen. There we go. You should be seeing Police Who Lie.
There we go. Yeah.
All right. So these are all the articles in the series. Police Who Lie, how officers thwart justice with false testimony. National body says justice system needs to act. For hollering at police, a man was beaten and tasered, even though the video phone cleared him. Judge rules police planted heroin to frame the driver. Here we go. Cop lied to get a warrant. Oh, I could talk for hours on that one. How to stop police from lying? Well, There we go. Here's another one. Cop lied to obtain the warrant. Okay. Indifference to the truth, serious concerns. My gosh, it's just more and more and more. And this is just one newspaper, one series that they did, and it was great. It really was. And I mean, here we go. I'm just flipping through it. Some of the things. Let's see if I've got it. Planted heroin to frame driver.
Wow.
What did I tell you about my second arrest, my second day on the job? They tried to do that. So, okay, so those haven't loaded yet. And there's a lot of them, and we can stop sharing now. Is that me? Yes. Okay.
Here we go.
There we go. So there's a lot of records, and this just dealt with Canada, or I'm sorry, with the Toronto area.
Yeah.
But all across Canada and the United States, you see that this has happened. There's records of it, and there's different ways of doing it. Planting of evidence, the deliberately not collecting exculpatory evidence, which is evidence of innocence, or destroying evidence of innocence. That's been done. And by the way, I just wish that the Toronto Star, they did police who lie. They should have done lawyers who lie, surgeons who lie. I mean,
Judges who lie.
Sure, judges who lie, but police as the front line, they can do a lot of damage, and they have. And this is why I also say that aside from, the faults of our justice system, and I'll call them natural faults or the systemic faults of our justice system that result in innocent people being convicted. And I don't mean just people who are technically innocent, they should have walked because that statement should have been left out or something. I'm talking about people who are truly innocent. We have thousands and thousands. We have executed, and the United States has executed innocent men all the time, which is why, again, I turned from a staunch proponent of the death penalty for serious crimes, horrific crimes, to where I am now, which is, lock them up and leave them in jail, because we've executed so many innocent people. So let's talk about this case.
Are you seeing any of the hallmarks or any of the signs that maybe there is some scripting here?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
You sniffed it out, did you?
Now, look, there are legal issues in play here, and there are legal issues about the recording of conversations without notice. So, as you might know, in Canada, we have a great law. We have a great law that you can put a device like this, or like this, or even like this. Yeah, a battery. It's not a battery. You can put those devices in your pocket, click them on, and record all day. And the technology is there to do that all day. Some of these devices record for 30, 40 hours at a go. And if you're an ordinary citizen, the way our laws are generally, and I'm not a lawyer, so, if you're going to do something, you should get real advice. But generally in Canada, we have what's called one-party consent. If you consent, you can walk into a room of 100 people and have a private conversation with them, and they don't know, and you don't have to tell them that you are recording. Now, there are admissibility factors. Will the judge allow that into any trial later on? Well, that's another thing. But you are probably not illegal. Now, if you leave that device in the room and you walk away, you better have a warrant or you're going to jail. And so there are limits. For police, there is some interesting case law and law out there. And it impacts when the police, including undercover people who are working for the police, who aren't police, can record conversations and engage in private conversations. But if you're sitting in a room and there's 100 people or 50 people standing around the bar, is that public? If there's even 6 or 7 people standing around a campfire at Coutts in the winter, is that public? Might be. So what I'm saying is there are legal issues here. Forget about that. Here's what we know. 30, 40 years ago, when we went to record somebody, the device was like a big book. It was made of aluminum. It was called a Nagra, Nagra, reel to reel. You can look it up later. And it weighed 3 pounds, and you had to shave the inside of your leg and use duct tape to tape that fella to the inside of your leg. The inside of your leg, because hopefully no one will grab you there. And then the mic led up through your clothes, and you taped it to your chest. So you could tell an undercover officer right away his leg was shaved and his chest was shaved in a certain spot. That's true. But as things went on, the recording devices became smaller. The Apple Watch right now is fabulous. It's a great recording device. It's just a watch. We also have watches that are video cameras, and we have pens, and we have earrings for the women, and they have bras that have these things built into them. And they're nothing. They're like the size of an aspirin, some of them. It's amazing. So there's no excuse for not having a recording device with you technically. In the old days, you feared sometimes that if you were discovered with that big thing in your leg or somewhere, it could go very, very badly for you. I mean, we did ops against organized crime and bikers, and if they hadn't known, so sometimes we didn't wear wires, at least until they liked us and we were part of the gang. But look at what we have here at Coutts. First of all, we have a number of undercover officers in Ottawa and in Coutts. We don't know all of them. There could have been dozens and dozens. Some could have been just observers. Some could have been agent provocateurs.
Mm-hmm.
But we do know, and by that we mean that they, and I don't even mean in the technical sense that they were legal sense that they were organizing and supplying things. No, they were just encouraging. So they sent in a couple of female RCMP undercover officers. I don't know where they got them. They probably pulled them in from somewhere across Canada. I don't know. And I think I've seen a photo of one, but no one's really sure if that's one of the ones. But I can guess that they're youngish, have a beautiful smile, and wouldn't drown. Okay? They're good-looking girls. And they picked the good-looking girls for a reason. They didn't pick an old guy like me. They didn't pick a 60-year-old woman to go in. Or maybe they did. Maybe they're there too. But they picked these good-looking girls to go in. Now, as I understand it, and someone correct me, as I understand it so far from the newspapers and from everything that I've been able to gather, what they heard and what they stated was an integral part of why the warrants were done,
mm-hmm.
and why the Emergency Act was then declared, because the warrants led to the stage photo of the guns. So what they heard and reported was really foundational, even to the Emergencies Act. I mean, if my connections are correct, and I don't hear anybody disagreeing with me, and if they do, I'd love to hear it. But the girls went in, along with some other evidence, I suppose. I don't know. We haven't seen it. And they heard something, or did they? But let's say they heard something. And they reported it. That led to the warrant. The warrant led to that staged photo and the declaration of the Emergencies Act. So what those girls heard, women, officers, heard, was foundational to what was done to Canada and Canadians. That's an important conversation. My understanding is it wasn't recorded.
Mm-hmm. That's
Well,
peculiar.
you know, legal issues aside, the fact that it's not recorded means two things. One, it's inaccurate. And we did this yesterday. And, you know, okay, is there anyone that can tell me what the third sentence that Jason said was when he came on the show, word for word? No. Nobody can say what I said 2 minutes ago. Can you give it to me verbatim? Really? No, you can't, because it just doesn't happen. So let's say the female undercover officers went in, talked to some of the guys, and then maybe an hour later, maybe 2 hours later, went away and dictated some notes, whatever they said. The words that they put in their notes are just not going to be 100% accurate. They will not. They won't. I used to use a technique, and some undercover officers use this. You don't want to get caught with anything in the old days. If you're dealing with a really corrupt organization like organized crime or something, this was just a bunch of truckers. But so you've heard something. It's important. What do? You go to the washroom. You can't have a pad on your notebook or something. You might as well have a recording device. So what do? You write it on toilet paper while sitting in the can. At 5:30 p.m., I heard this person say that, and you shove it down your sock. What does that do? Well, it gives you great credibility. You made notes at the time as close to the event as you could. And the fact that it's written on toilet paper really does prove that you made it at the time. That's, you know, that sounds funny, but these are things you think of. But I don't think they did. I think that they, hours later, reported what they heard. Or did they say, "Oh my, you have a big gun," or whatever they said, or "Oh, I hate the cops," whatever they said? We don't know what they said, and they're not going to report what they said if they said anything like that, are they? They're not going to. They're not going to say.
There's no recording. We'll never know what they said.
No. So the fact that there is not a recording, that somebody, and it would not have been these two undercover officers, it wouldn't have been, somebody high up made the decision to send them in deliberately without recording anything. And that is, in today's technology, they could have had earrings on. Seriously.
Yeah.
They could have worn a watch. So it was a decision made to not record. It wasn't a decision made because they didn't have the technical capability. It wasn't a decision made because, they may have been found out. Heck, half the people in the crowd are wearing Apple Watches or Fitbits or something. So that decision was a strategic and tactical decision to not record the conversation. No.
Okay. No, I was going to throw one thing in there. Yeah, I can answer the question. There's a possibility it was completely recorded. It's just not useful to them. So we'll never get it because it's useful to us. There's a possibility there because I have a very high concern that they put them in there without protection for security for themselves, these officers. I would want them to be.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. There may well have been a recording, but it's too late to bring it forward now, I think.
I don't know. Let's see what's in the sealed envelope.
Unless it's there, maybe it's in the sealed envelope. Exactly. Okay. But if the recording, which could be hours long, I mean, this little Sony does 37 hours without a battery change or anything. It's just 37 hours. Fabulous. and that's 10 years old. So whatever it is today. So they may have made a recording and decided that it's exculpatory. Remember what I
Right.
said about destroying evidence of innocence? So, but for now in this conversation, let's say that they are diligent and they believe in rule of law, and they were ordered to go in without without a recording device, and however way that was justified to them, and they went in and they did the best they could.
Yeah.
Even in those, I'll say, highly unlikely situation, because everything is political in this, we've proven that. Even in that highly unlikely situation where they did go in, they're diligent, they tried their best. Out of hours of conversation, they only picked the one thing or two that they thought might be relevant, maybe out of context, maybe the words were wrong. Was it a crowded bar where people banging beer and singing in the corner? Where was, I mean, there's so many
Maybe they wanted to
variables
do a
here.
good job and provide what they wanted to collect. There's always that ambition and bias in there too.
Now we get to it. Okay. We're going to work backwards.
Or not. They decided he will not be working backwards. Okay. We'll give him a moment. And Zach, let's get to you because I know you have to get to your kids soon. So what we'll do is we'll pause Donald because
There we go.
Hey, Donald, just pause for a second.
Yep.
If you don't mind, Donald, we're going to come right back to you because we got to get Zach back to his kids, if you don't mind.
Wonderful.
Okay, we'll come right back to you, Donald. So, Zach, go ahead and give us a quick summary of the guns because Viva wanted to kind of really get a good understanding and have a little quick summary so that we can maybe clip that and pass that around. So,
For sure. I have my screen shared there if you just want to throw it up.
Oh, that's the wrong one. There we go.
Okay, awesome. So I have these numbered. I'll zoom in on this too. So I'll just go through those quickly. Number 1 is a Browning lever action non-restricted. So I'm going to also open it. Like, I'm going to assume that these were all stored properly and the guys that they took these from had their PAL and all of the legal things were innocent until proven guilty here. So number 1, non-restricted Browning lever action. Number 2 is a Type 97 variant of a Norinco. It shoots 5.56. It's semi-auto, also non-restricted. Number 3 is a Savage bolt action, non-restricted. Number 4 and 5, these two are both restricted, which means that they would have extra legislation around them. Not illegal to own. You just need to have your RPAL instead of your regular PAL, so your restricted possession and acquisitions license. Number 4 is one of speculation, because I think one of the charges is it was stored with a loaded magazine inside of the gun. So you can actually store in storage, not transportation, but you can store magazine with rounds in it, but it can't be in the gun.
Can't be
And
chambered.
so it can't be, yeah, exactly. Well, it can't be, the magazine can't be in the magwell. Chambered as well would be also part of that too. But so as far as storage goes, if you have it in a safe, you can have rounds in the magazine and it's stored with the gun. So that's
just separate.
Yeah, just separate. And then the one below it is Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0, shoots 9mm, would also be restricted. Number 6 is a variant of an AR. It would be this one is a non-restricted one, so it shoots 5.56. It would be like a Kodiak Defense 1K or WK 180, something like that. Again, completely legal to own. Number 7 is a Chris Vector chambered in 22 long rifle, non-restricted. It's actually a really cool gun. This is a very expensive gun too, actually. Number 8. So this is one of the things that is really highly up for speculation. So this is legal to have, not legal to own, but legal to have as long as it's stored correctly, because it was a part of the OIC back in 2020. So it's actually prohibited to own. You can only keep it in your safe, and it's one of the guns that the government wants to buy back. If we know what it is. So it's a AR-15 model, and this one is also one that we've kind of had some speculation into, that this is actually a weapon that is also RCMP issued.
Similar
Um,
to.
Similar to, yeah. And with it though, like I said, it's not illegal to own. So lots of people probably had these long before. And if they raided someone's safe, they could have for sure found it. Not that it makes it illegal, but it was legal before, got hit with the OIC, and now it's a prohibited weapon. So if they had it out of that safe and with them outside of their house where it was supposed to be kept, that will definitely have some legal issues. So gun number 8 and gun number 4 are the two ones that are kind of the ones on this list here that could be the troublemakers here. Number 9 is a Mossberg lever action, non-restricted. Number 10, I think this one is it's something chambered, I think, in 22 long rifle. I don't think we actually have a model on this, and I don't think that number 10 was actually any of the guys. I think it was someone else's within the original
I'll look it up. I
arrests.
think I might have it. You keep going.
Yep.
I'll look that one up.
Number 11 is a Savage bolt action chambered in 17 magnums. So those are a rimfire cartridge. Number 10 is another one of those the WSMCRs or the WK180s, same type of variant of those. 13 is a 12 gauge shotgun. It's a Benelli semi-automatic, non-restricted. 14 is a Kodiak Defense WK180, again non-restricted, shoots 5.56 NATO. And number 15, it's kind of same thing, the Air 180, and shoots 5.56 non-restricted. So the other couple things I wanted to just highlight quickly, just because it has been topics that we've touched upon before. The diagolon patches on this vest. We have these magazines. So these would fit in like any of the ARs or the AR style. They're supposed to be pinned to 5 rounds in the magazine, but these ones look like they have a lot more. So these would look like your regular 30 round magazine. So it would just be pinned so that it can't accept any more rounds than 5. Some people make it illegal by removing the pin. So that was an option. These also could have been illegally imported from, say, the United States, where you can get 30 rounds. So they could also be issued by some other RCMP military, something like that, and somehow found out into the wrong people's hands. So those things are another thing to look for. We also have some bear mace, which is not illegal to have. And then we have a plate carrier, which has been proven to be not have plates in it, if I remember correctly. And
Correct.
also plates aren't illegal to have either. You just have to have your PAL, and you have to, I think, register them with
Correct. You need a permit for
Alberta
them.
government. Yeah, for sure. So apart from, like I said, gun number 4 and gun number 8 being the big things that would be highly illegal here, just for the improper storage of the magazine. Again, assuming that this was in a safe. And then this, if it was outside of the safe, not stored properly, and it was owned prior to the OIC. So that's kind of a quick summary on what we see on the table here. But I think when they, like we were talking before, whether this was staged, and it's not staged in the fact that it was planted, but staged in the way that they
Correct.
wanted to present it. We have like a machete on here. Like these vests were just made, or the plate carriers and vests were made to make it look like it was more military style or like a coup. There's nothing illegal about the ammo that they have, right? So they just wanted to kind of bring that into the picture as well. They could have had just this table with just the guns that were confiscated if that's what they wanted, but they wanted to kind of prove a different narrative to it. And that's why you see the diagolon patches, the scary looking body armor that looks more military, all of those things, just to kind of prove a point, and that this was basically a cache that was taken to be able to overthrow the government, kill RCMP, all of the other charges of conspiracy and all that stuff. They needed more evidence to be able to prove that point. not necessarily that it was actually part of the plan or anything like that. I think there's still lots of information that we don't know about these guns, whose they are, because I think only 6 of them were the four men's. 6 of these guns on the table were the four men's. So I mean, there's a,
Attributed to them, yeah.
yeah, so there's a lot of unanswered questions here, and this is the only information that we got. The lots of the other information was my speculation and documents that we got through the court process, not any public releases by the RCMP. So they've
Mhm.
specifically tried to kind of hide that, because anybody that takes a look at it would know that like 90% of these guns are not illegal to own. So why is it such a big deal? Again, assuming that they're stored properly and they're bought through the legal means. So that's kind of everything, just a kind of quick summary of the guns.
And quickly checking disclosure, they have gun number 10 listed as a 22 caliber. No
That
maker
one's a
model.
22? No maker model. Okay. Yeah.
So just a common 22, I guess, because they don't even have a maker model on it.
Well, and I think it kind of you can't really see, but I bet you it would be a bolt action. So
Yeah, I kind of
that's-
make it out there by the tag.
Yeah, I
right
think
corner
like
of it.
this little silver thing right by the tag, I think it would be
Mm.
like the bolt. So that one, yeah, you would basically one pull of the trigger, one round goes down, and then you have to cycle it manually. So nothing particularly scary or anything like that about that one.
All right, so Don, scripting, is it just a verbal thing or can photographs be scripted? Because this could just be a scripted photograph.
Sure. Okay. One.
In the sense that it's creating something that's not really there. So a scary cachet is not really scary.
I'm going to put a higher threshold on scripting.
Okay.
We're going to call scripting intentional deceit. Okay, and to a certain standard. Now, I've written about this photograph and the entire case, but especially this photograph on my website, donaldbest.ca. And the big deal about this is this photograph was presented to the entire country within hours after these weapons were seized. It was also used as justification for the Emergencies Act, because it was really all about Coutts. If you look at the press and you look at everything, it's all about Coutts. This photograph, the terrorist group that were arrested, where there were supposed to be so many more of them too, and unknown people that were part of this gang of terrorists. That's the way it was portrayed. Okay, so. But what do we know about this photo? We know that none of these weapons were properly gathered with an eye to proper gathering of evidence. They should have been individually bagged, photographed where they were, bagged to preserve them. They're looking for other people of this horrific gang of terrorists, so they want to do fingerprints and DNA on each available weapon or item. But they didn't. They put it all together on the table, cross-contaminating any possible DNA, and it's evident that they never fingerprinted these things either. Now, in the case down east where we had a mass murder in Nova Scotia, we had the RCMP commissioner trying to force the homicide officers, to reveal what the weapons were for political purposes, so that it could be used by the government to ban those weapons right in the middle, the first few days of the homicide investigation. And those officers refused, and they pushed back hard. But here, we're supposed to believe that in a similar situation, they presented this photo to the country. It would have alerted any real co-conspirators that their weapons or their items were here to dispose of other things. The fact that they totally contaminated the scene and mishandled the evidence so that it, couldn't be fingerprinted or DNA'd, effectively, just shows that this was a political staged photo. And by staged, I don't mean that they planted anything here. Maybe they did. I doubt it. Maybe. But by staged, I mean it was crafted. This was theater. And to do this, they broke all the rules of evidence. They polluted their investigation. They undermined their own case. But it was so important that this thing got out politically that they did it. Okay, stop there. Let's work backwards. This probably came from those statements made from the girls, the undercover female officers. They were, their statements were used, we believe, I've seen in the press, they were part of the evidence gathering that was used to justify the search warrants, which were justified to use the Emergency Act and all the rest of that. So my question is this, for scripting, when they went in there deliberately without recording anything, were they looking to hear those bits that would say it was organized, to say that the weapons were intended to be used to murder police officers? Or did they go in there, were they briefed, this is the evidence we need, and then they went in and lo and behold, they found it? The fact that they were not carrying recording devices is a huge red flag. Huge red flag. And it says to me that they went in with a mission not to find out the truth, but to create a truth. Because we know from everything else that the investigation was influenced or by politics. We know that the less than professional handling of the evidence was influenced by a political agenda to show this photo. The staging and release of the photo early within hours of these weapons being purportedly seized, that was a political decision made to impact the public. And the denial of bail to the Coutts Four, as I've said, we have an accused cop killer out on bail in Toronto right now. We have all sorts of gangbangers out across the country on bail. We have people who are accused of setting multiple forest fires, arsonists, where homes and businesses and maybe people died, and they're out on bail. But they're keeping these four in bail, one, to act as public evidence that these people are so dangerous that it justified the use of the Emergencies Act, two, to influence potential jury members. Wow, they must be really bad. Everybody gets bail, but these terrorists are still in jail. And three, I believe, to deter other Canadians, teach them a really good lesson about what happens to people and their families who dare to oppose the government.
100%, dude. And also the C-21, like there's just so many things that point to this photograph that they've been using since the capturing of this photograph. It's just pretty convenient. And I like the way you break it down because you work your way backwards. I also think that this entire thing was worked way backwards. They wanted the EA. To get the EA, they needed this, then this, then this. And then it was created or found or discovered or put together, something along those lines.
We know that politicians were aware of the situation the day before, 24 hours before the arrests and warrants and everything like that.
Yeah.
Politicians were aware. We know of that from the inquiry. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the minute you have politicians aware of a current police operation, the minute you inject politics into a police operation and a police investigation, justice goes out the window.
And there's two parts to that injection of politics. One, it interferes, but one, it's also supposed to be opposition and expose. So we've got a question for the panel. I'd like to ask a question for the panel. Do you find it strange that Pierre Poilievre and the rest of the Conservatives have not stepped up to defend or at the very least say something? So this is another part of political influence, which is supposed to bring awareness. That itself, when it's stifled, is part of this as well. Don't you think, Donald?
Oh, that was a question for me?
Yeah. I said,
Okay.
you said political to help them, but it's also political when the opposition doesn't do their job. And for the reason why they're not doing their job could also be part of this political question.
Well, it is, but it's also this. The message that people got from day one was that a bunch of terrorists were arrested. Look at these weapons. They're painted black. Some of them look very sinister. And there are others that we're searching for as part of this armed Diagolon rebellion against the government of Canada, where they plotted to kill people, to overthrow the government. That's what we had. And I've said before, my friends, when I first saw that photo and I had heard that they took down a bunch of terrorists, Coutts, I said, good, glad they got him, throw away the key. And 500 days later, I went, what? They're not on a bail? They haven't had a trial? What's the evidence? And then I started looking, and wow, it's just, look, I'm not saying every person is innocent of everything they're accused of. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that the whole thing is political theater. And were the police just trying to please their leaders? Were they trying to please their political masters and the police supervisors up the chain?
Maybe.
I mean, this thing was known about in Ottawa for days before it was taken down. Come on. This is not an independent investigation by police. We can see that this whole thing was polluted by political agendas right from the start. And I want to know, is there a recording? Did those two undercover officers wear body packs? And by body packs, I mean earrings, Apple Watch. If I had to bet, I'd bet they did.
John
if I had
agrees
to
with
bet,
you.
if I had to bet, I'd say that somebody looked at it and said, that doesn't really suit our purpose. Because there was a purpose. The purpose was to create that photo and to get that out and to use that to justify the Emergencies Act.
And Gord, you titled your article "Political Prisoners of Trudeau," so you came to the same type of conclusion that this is political and they're prisoners for that reason. Did you use Donald's assessments, or did you come up with your own on that one?
Well, it's just the vibe of the whole thing, right? Like, it's pretty clear to everyone that this is the last vestige of legitimacy, as Donald said, for the invocation of the act. They've got nothing else. The government redacted the meetings of the minutes from the final cabinet meeting before they invoked the act. As you said, Jason, the POEC, a lot of the testimony from CSIS was not public or televised as the rest of it was. The portion dealing with Coutts was done behind closed doors, again, out of the view of the public while the rest of the POEC was public. So it only stands to reason that whatever was going on with Coutts, they didn't want the public to know. They didn't want the public to scrutinize it. So, I mean, it's not too much of a stretch to imagine that the whole thing is super weak sauce, and they literally had nothing. And, the invocation of the Emergencies Act drew so much bad press for Trudeau around the world, like the bank freezing, seizing assets. The business community is like, who wants to invest in Canada? Everywhere outside Canada, Trudeau was getting bad press. Maybe in Canada, he had his fawning sycophants. But like, this is it. This is all that they have left. So, why not throw the book at these guys? What is the lives of 4 people in comparison to Justin Trudeau's vanity? This guy is one of the most venal, vindictive, empty. My editor, Bocce Unger Sargon, went on Fox a couple of days after the article came out and called him a liberal authoritarian. You know, he's got his rainbow socks, but if you disagree with him, look out. So, of course, they're going to use these guys, you know, and I really hope the truth comes out about this, because, you know, I don't have a whole lot of faith that anything is going to happen in Canada, right? So let's say this week or at some point in the future, this case gets tossed, or maybe it does go to trial. All this evidence that Donald's looking for, all these red flags, does come out. The men are exonerated. Like, if this happened in the United States, there would be like very, very powerful lawyers and people coming out to go to war against the government for what happened. Is that going to happen in Canada? I don't know.
Thinks no way.
Yeah, I'm very skeptical because of the cloistered, insular nature of the sort of Laurentian establishment. You know, our friend Jeremy McKenzie is quite right. You know, like, get the libs out. Like, the Conservatives have done nothing. The establishment is the establishment. And insofar as this is mostly about Trudeau and the invocation of the act, the fact that all of these people stood by, said nothing, let it happen, and shrugged their shoulders implicates all of them as well. So there's this inertia that we're fighting against, and that's literally crushing the four guys, right? And I really hope, I'm very skeptical of this case. It strikes me like I agree with everything Donald and you have said so far. When and if they're exonerated, I don't know that it's going to move the needle on having everyone in Canada reassess the Rouleau ruling, reassess the act, hold Trudeau or any of these people accountable. I just don't know, man. I don't know.
And I just want to highlight something. You were the only reporter that reached out to us early and wanted to know about the media ban. And we explained to you that it was a publication ban on certain items. Now that Ezra is reporting, they're doing live reporting, they're doing articles, but nothing's changed in the court when it came to the publication ban. Do you think this is Ezra's way of validating that this thing was not the ban that he was saying it was? Because they could have been reporting the entire time. Nothing's changed in the last week, but yet his reporting has. So does this indicate that maybe there was a confusion on what that was, or maybe more?
I don't know if it was confusion. Maybe. You know, part of me wants to say that, like, you know, Mr. Levant has his connections with the Conservative Party and maybe wants to stay in certain parts of its good graces. I don't know, but, like, you know, I've been watching the Freedom Convoy and everything from afar. You know, I went to Ottawa, I took part in it, and I wrote on it extensively from the US, and then watching the goings on in Canada. And there's like, I mentioned this to another guy I did a show with yesterday, that like the Canadian media is so insular, and Canadian people, like, I'm going to say something that's probably going to upset some people in the chat. Maybe they'll disagree with me, whatever. But like, once you like leave Canada, and, you know, I've traveled extensively. I lived in Australia, I lived in New Zealand, I've been to Europe a couple times. You know, I spent a lot of my youth wandering around, working in other countries. And now I've lived in the United States nonstop for 7 years. Like, once you get outside of the Canadian media and cultural ecosystem and like get out and go outside, and that you start to realize the sort of stultifying, navel gazing insularity of it all, and how not conservative in the political sense it is, but like it doesn't want to move anything. It doesn't have the sort of dynamism you have in other countries, and that affects how people think about things. And that affects, like, you know, nobody wants to rock the boat. Nobody wants to be seen as a tall poppy. Nobody wants to speak out about anything. The sort of people like yourself, like Donald, like some of the people like Jeremy McKenzie, speaking out is frowned upon in that type of culture, right? In the United States, it's like way more radical, and people here are more forthright. And like I say, that affects how the media functions. So maybe, TNC, Rebel, all these guys are, they probably don't want to admit it, but I think that affects how they think about this. And then there's the sort of like media cycles too, right? Like what generates clicks? If something is not out there, if something is not going to bring you attention, if something's not being talked about, right? Like being the first mover on something is a risky proposition. You might put all this effort into talking about something and it might get no buzz. It might not go viral. It might not do anything to generate attention for yourself or your website, your media organization. So, if it's not going to get those clicks, if it's not going to do anything, you're not going to talk about it. And maybe there was the sense that the Coutts thing had been subject to this inertia, the inertia of not being part of this sort of attention economy.
Right.
I'm spitballing here. I could be totally wrong, but like, it just strikes me that there's a certain cultural inertia in Canada that prevents people from discussing things. And like folks like yourselves, people like me, we are the outliers to that inertia.
Absolutely. And I think naturally the market required this. And this is kind of why we're filling that void. We didn't go seek it. It's just, I wasn't finding this information myself. I wasn't finding a voice I could listen to. And some of the voices out there are good, but some of them were not so good. And that's kind of how this happened. I was filling the void that I couldn't find. And I think there's going to be more and more of that. What do you think, Gord?
Sure. There's this famous punk musician from San Francisco named Jello Biafra. He was a singer in this band called the Dead Kennedys. And he had this saying, you have to become the media, because sometimes they're not going to say that the institutional media, certain parts of the media aren't going to discuss topics that don't benefit them, don't benefit their paymasters, and the Canadian media, again, subsidized by Trudeau. They're all part of the Laurentian elite. They're not going to go and risk themselves for four guys in Coutts who have been at the business end of a scapegoating and outgrouping campaign that has gone on now for a year and a half, right? So who's going to stick their neck out for them that might, get them cast out from, the cocktail parties or, raise questions, what I mean? Even and that comes down to nobodies like me. Like as I mentioned on your first stream, since I've publicly defended the Freedom Convoy and tried to be a voice for my fellow truckers, I've had family members who've just stopped talking to me. They just, I've been written off as a Nazi shill or whatever for being on the wrong side of the psyop. That's a calculation people are going to make, and that's a calculation that people with big names, big reputations, and big salaries on the line are they're going to think about that even more heavily than I am.
100%. And I think the biggest problem, or one of the biggest problems, because there's so many of them, is how media is being treated. There's a whole accreditation of media thing, and how the courts require it. We're doing media, okay? We're reporting 100%. There's no question about it. But we were not allowed to sit in that nice little box that allows you to record, live stream, and take notes. I think that's a barrier that doesn't need to be there, because what does accreditation mean? It just means approved through some sort of regulation or process, whether you have to be an organization approved by the government or whatnot. So it's all connected. And it was frustrating to me to not be able to open my phone and live tweet the facts that I'm watching. It was frustrating to me not to use my recorder. And Donald, I got stopped at security because of the recorder, because I'm not hiding anything. I'm not that type of person. So, of course, I put it into the tray to be scanned. And they go, "Oh, what's this for?" I said, "Recording." They go, "Well, are you accredited?" I said, "Well, actually, I believe I am. I'm here for Newsweek. I can get the information to them, Viva Fry, True North. I'm here reporting and being correspondent for others." He goes, "But are you on the list?" No. He goes, "Well, then, no, I have to confiscate this." He goes, "Take it home." Well, I can't. Wife is gone. So he just put it away. He was nice enough to hold on to it for me for the day. But this is where we have a major problem. I am interested in the facts and getting the facts out, and nothing but the facts. And they're even making it difficult for me to record it so I can make sure I get it correct. They're making it difficult for me to get it out real time. I'm going to have to do it at the end of the day. They're making it really difficult for somebody who really just wants to get this information out of the court and into the public space legally and allowed. These barriers, Donald, of accreditation for media, I think it's part of one of these muzzling techniques that are being used to shut us down. What do you think, Donald? Because you're a reporter, but you don't have that fancy little badge or anything like that that gives you this special treatment to report correctly.
That's true, but I do have some mainstream media credits, including I produced some documentaries for Super Channel. I did some articles in the Globe and Mail, and so on.
Well, you're an outlier. I'm talking about people that didn't have that.
But hang on, even that isn't enough. It's not
really?
enough. So for I rely on people's good graces and the court realizing that things have to be done in the open. And I'll just pivot for a moment to the case of Detective Helen Gruce, that Ottawa copper who was charged for daring to investigate the potential that the mRNA vaccines had something to do with 9 sudden infant deaths. She was just looking into it, started an investigation. They shut her down. Okay, she's charged under the Police Services Act. They refused to release the judgments of the judge at the various hearings and stages, his decisions, not just the motions that were put before the court, but they refused to release the judge's decisions. It's all about controlling the public knowledge of the case and controlling how the media play it and such. That's what's being done here. Generally, the fact is, you're not on that list. I'm not on that list. And that list is done court by court, as we discussed. It's not like you've got your name on the list for all of Alberta, all the courts. No, it's court by court. It's about control. It's all about control of the message that Canadians get to hear.
So should we just maybe, I'm not going to advocate for breaking the law at all, but maybe this non-compliance thing, like why should we comply with some of these particular rules which are stifling democracy, like generally? And this is what public dissent is supposed to be about, isn't it?
Well, it is, but you know what? You get caught recording something in court, we have to be careful. We have to be really careful because but I don't mean careful not to get caught. I mean careful that, paraphrase Winston Churchill, the Canadian justice system and the courts are the worst of all, except for everything else, right? So it's all we've got, and somehow we have to work within their rules because the courts are very dangerous. I found that out. I mean, I had a corrupt judge. Who says that? Me? Well, yeah, but so does the commissioner of the RCM or of the Ontario Provincial Police in a sworn affidavit. Okay, so they're so powerful. They can do anything they want to you. They can hold you in jail for 500 and some odd days when everyone else is out. You have to be so careful. So my advice is no, never, ever secretly record in court. Don't do it. It's just not worth it. Now, the lawyers can do it. Accredited journalists can do it. Maybe we should work on getting accredited. I know it's their system. But whatever you do, do not allow the court to come down on you like a ton of concrete, because it will. It's so powerful. It cares nothing for anything else except its own power.
You're not wrong, Donald. Okay, so you're giving me the wonderful advice and making sure that I don't get in trouble. However, we need to set precedents. We need to challenge. We need to test. We need to have the court actually decide on some things sometimes. And having the headline of reporter charged for reporting might be something that can make our way through the court, make our way through society, and change this. I know
I
you're
understand
not,
that, but they'll take your farm.
that's fine,
They'll
Donald. Some
take.
people have to stand
They'll
up.
destroy your family. They
No, they
will.
won't touch my family. But anyways, Gord, my what I'm saying here is sometimes citizens have to stand up and take a licking or two to cause the government to do it. Therefore, we can then review what they're doing and maybe end that. And this is what the truckers were doing the entire time, standing up. And yes, they got beat down. Yes, they had their accounts done. Yes, their families have been affected. Everything Donald's saying is true. It's not true. But if we all stayed away from the consequences of standing up to the government, where would that leave us?
Not in a good place. I'm not 100% sure in this particular instance that, pushing the envelope too far. We're dealing with 4 men's lives here, and I'm trying to be very careful about that.
Well, I'm not going to use this incident, but I'm saying in the future, is there something that we should be doing to push this question further?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. Leviathan, power concedes nothing without a demand.
Mm-hmm.
And, the cathedral, as the dissident American thinker Curtis Yarvin puts it, and I borrow that, and I consider the Canadian media elites like Cathedral Nord. They need to be challenged, and they're zoom out. It's part of a bigger picture where the entire West is going through the convulsions of globalism imposed from on high, which are subverting local sovereign democracy, such as it is. And, Trudeau is the foot soldier for that here in Canada. He doesn't care about Canada. He doesn't answer to us. He answers to an international global elite caste who care not a whiff about us or any of our concerns. So, yeah, and one of the things I found in discussing Freedom Convoy with many other people is that, I did an interview with this guy. He's a writer in the UK. His name's KB Goldtooth. That he's an anonymous writer. And we had a discussion about Freedom Convoy. And he was telling me that, like, he's sitting at home watching YouTube videos of the Freedom Convoy roll into Ottawa. And, like, he just started crying his eyes out because he's like, finally, someone's doing something. Someone's standing up against this madness. So the Freedom Convoy had this major symbolic power around the world that I don't think many Canadians quite understand. Again, the inertia and insularity of our own media and its unwillingness to discuss these matters. And, we do have to stand up. We do have to say something. And it's being recognized outside of the country. So that's one of the things I just want people to understand, that the Freedom Convoy was a very powerful symbol outside of Canada. Like, as much as the Canadian media got together in a huddle and tried to demonize it, tried to say all these false, nasty things about us, the government was up to their eyeballs in it. It was all proved in the POEC. The rest of the world saw the Freedom Convoy as this symbolic, powerful rebuttal of the forces of sort of international corporate globalism that are trying to basically control everyone's lives. So yeah, keep pushing. How you push, how that looks, I'm not sure, but keep pushing.
Yeah, and you got me thinking, especially Don's comment about the men too. Like, we'll pick our battles here. So I'm thinking maybe I'll go to Edmonton to try to get an interview with Danielle, and then they'll say credit it or not. I'll film it. I'll maybe show people the process and how I'm stopped, something along those lines, and maybe just do that a few more times, because this whole accreditation thing, it's part of 1984. This is how they're controlling the media as well, in addition to the other ways of stifling us online and stuff, calling us something that's not acceptable, accredited, and then stopping us right at the door. So yeah, Donald, I just wanted to clarify there. I'm not trying to make it difficult for anything, but I think we need to find strategically where we can push this a little bit further And I'm not afraid to have to stand in security and get yelled at or thrown out. And I don't think they're going to arrest me because I'm not going to go do anything that requires that. I'm not going to actually break a law, but I certainly will push the barrier and question the resistance on their part on why they won't let me continue and go ahead and record. I think that might be a little bit more comfortable. What do you think, Donald?
Well, look, I went to prison for standing up about corruption. Excuse me. I could have taken an easier way, but I made my decision because my children were all grown. I didn't have a house. I was almost untouchable, and I made that decision. So, and I've been fighting, and actually, just being here, even listening to this broadcast, is an act of rebellion these days. So we all do what we can, but what really gave me pause was, asking the question, should we go in and secretly record inside the court?
I wouldn't have done it secretly. It would have been out front.
I understand that, but I wanted the audience to really be sure, because these judges are so powerful in their old courts. If you got caught secretly recording, it's the equivalent of standing up in court and saying to the judge, F you. And we all know where that leads. It goes nowhere except a bad place. That's not the way to fight that battle. The way is, as you were doing in the lead up to that, it go through security and demand your rights and write letters and try and become accredited, or bring public attention to the injustice of the accreditation process and how it's done to censor and everything. But don't you stand up in court and say F you to the judge, because that's just a losing strategy. And secretly recording in court would be exactly that. That's all. I just wanted our audience to be sure, don't do it.
100%. And I'm not advocating breaking the law. I'm advocating pushing it as much as we can. So maybe we'll record our side as far as we can, and then we can show the world where they're stopping us. And that might be a bit of a story there. We're going to wrap up because we have to get to the courthouse and have some breakfast and get some energy. So I'm going to have Granny just jump in. She's my little buddy in the stream, and she's going to say a couple things, and then we'll wrap up this episode.
Okay.
Get right in there.
Okay. One thing remember, I was in Ottawa. I was there from start to finish. So I saw the theater and I saw what went on. I didn't understand why all the concrete barriers were being brought in. Every morning I went down to Wellington and I walked every street from inch to inch, up and down, and I recorded all of them too. I didn't understand those concrete barriers until I saw them pulling the guys out of the trucks and throttling these poor men. These men could not get away. Their trucks were trapped. And it was horrific to see this. I then understood the concrete barriers. Everybody said those truckers stayed and they didn't leave. They couldn't leave. There was nowhere to go. And so when you see those kind of lies, trust me, they'll do it to you too. So I get what Jason's saying. We do have to push the envelope, but we have to push it in a way they don't put those concrete barriers around you, because 4 men are still sitting in jail, remand jail, 527 days. So we will remember that. And listen, I'm all about pushing the envelope. Obviously, I'm a grandma and I'm out here sitting with Jason and Donald and Gord. So more of us do need to step up. Love you all, and please show up at the court. And if you can't show up at the court, please share the messages. We need to get this out far and wide. And I want to say a special thank you to Auntie Kate. I will phone you back. I did get your message. Okay. Love you all.
Thank you very much, Granny. You're so wise. I'm so glad I have you in my life now. This is my buddy. He's my buddy. How do you like that, railroaded? Yeah. Now, Gord, we're going to wrap up. Do you want to say anything else to Canada? Because you may have helped save it. And I just want to say one thing to Vanessa, who's watching. Gord is also another stitch in the quilt of freedom. All right, Vanessa? Gord is another stitch as well. Maybe be an entire patch, actually. Thank you, Gord.
Thank you. Yeah, like the Diagolon patch that set the world on fire. No, thanks, guys. Thank you guys for being on top of this. I'm looking forward to hearing what happens at the hearing today. I'm looking forward to doing a follow-up piece again, as I mentioned earlier. Newsweek would love to hear directly from the gentleman. If we could make that happen, that'd be great. And good luck in court. And just, you know, hearts and prayers from here. There's more people down here in the United States paying attention to this than you would expect, and I just hope this all works out. I want these guys to be free. I want the nightmare to be over for them.
Absolutely, and we got to tell them about Bud Light so they don't go and grab one when they get out. Gotta make sure they know. We got to make sure that's the last thing we need. The Coutts Four drinking Bud Light. We have to make sure that doesn't happen.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, Jason, and thank you all you guys. Cheers.
Yeah, send me your phone number. We'll get the guys to call you. Take care, bud. And Donald, do you want to wrap up and say? Well, I'm sitting beside Granny, who's Canada's grandma. Am I looking at Canada's grandpa? Because your wisdom and your love for us is really well felt there, Donald.
Thank you so much. I'm feeling really optimistic here. As you know, I'm an evidence guy. All my life, I've been all about evidence, all my professional life. And I'm seeing some things here that give me a bit of optimism. And let's see what happens today. Great that people are tuning in, because in a big way, this isn't just about the Coutts Four. This is about Canada.
100%, Donald. Thank you so much. And I'm going to start calling you Canada's grandpa. We'll see if it sticks. I don't know, but we'll see if it sticks. Chat, let me know. Is this Canada's grandpa? Love you, Donald. Okay, buddy? We'll talk soon.
See you later.
Bye. Well, there, folks. Well, I can't push a button. No, you come back here. I can't push a button and get rid of Granny, but she's right here. Well, here we go, folks. We are now getting ready to go to the courthouse. We're going to have a little bit of food, and we're going to head over there. We're going to be supporting these men all day long. So we're going to get our electrolytes into us and get some energy up, because we want to make sure that we're staying awake, because I'm not recording this. So as I go through security, if you watch this video, I'm not doing anything wrong. I might get pulled into a secret room and have to prove it to you. But in any case, I have no intention to do anything wrong. I'm going to go there and use my mind, my eyes, my ears, and I'll record it that way, and my notebook. And we'll make sure that we can get this to you. Have yourself a great day. And if you do go there, remember, this is just a gathering. This is not a rally. This is not a protest. We're just supporting the guys. Don't make a convoy. Don't do a parade. And certainly don't bring any anger and frustration. We have faith that this system is slowly moving in the right direction. Today is going to be a big day. So let's go and support the men and support the people who support the men. So let's go support each other. We love you all very much. And you make sure and you tune in a little bit later. If you want to watch Ezra first, go ahead. And then when you come and get the rest of the information from us, we'll be happy to give it to you. But Ezra, I hope I see you there, and maybe you'll give me a small interview. 5 minutes of your time? That would be wonderful. So everybody, you take care. We love you all very much. Granny, you want to get in with a good love?
Yeah. Everybody have a great day. Go out, drink some coffee, and solve one problem today.
Yeah. And then what do we close off with?
Oh,
God bless.
God bless. Love you.